But if I got a vacation home there, though.
Well, it depends. Is it on the? Is it on Sunday?
Was it Neil A. Maxwell?
You can't go there on a Sunday.
You are listening to Saints in the South. All right, welcome everyone. This is season 2, episode 97. We are Saints in the South, representing saints everywhere, and we are your source for gospel growth and good times. Whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on your favorite podcast platform, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. As always, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, all at Saints in the South. And you can also check out our website, saintsinthesouth.com. This week, we are in sections 133 to 134. Prepare ye for the coming of the bridegroom. And so, as always, Andrew, going to get us kick started here.
What you got?
We're back in time in 1831 in Hiram, Ohio. They sustained the decision to print 10,000 copies. So
it's a lot.
A lot of copies, way more than what the beginning of the Book of Mormon. You know, what was the Book of Mormon? 5,000.
Yeah.
So 10,000 of Joseph Smith's revelations, and what actually they called it a book of commandments for the government of the Church of Christ. So they sustained this idea. Anyways, some of it is what we're about to learn now.
Right,
so
anyways. Yeah. So we and you may have just mentioned, so this is takes place back in 1831 is when this section is.
Yeah, November.
That's right. And we've as far as the study of the Doctrine and Covenants, we were up in the 1840s.
Wait a minute. I can't say that though, because the way our movie magic works, today's November 4th. This was done November 3rd. I thought it was November 3rd. So I thought it was going to be cool there for a minute, but
almost.
Anyway.
Not quite.
All right.
So in the and again, taking a look at the revelations and context and so forth, there was a part in here where William McClellan had a big part in recording this section and so forth. Mm-hmm. And we know that he ultimately ended up falling away from the church. And did more than fall away. He actually participated in the persecutions and kind of driving the saints out of Missouri and everything. However, pertaining to this particular document in writing, William McClellan, he stated that these revelations were worth to the church the riches of the whole earth, and that they contain the keys of the mysteries of the kingdom and the riches of eternity to the church. And so during this time, again, back in 1831, as they are looking to share the gospel, spread the gospel and everything, there were a lot of questions about how they were going to do that, about the Lord's return and everything. And that's really what this section is all about, the second coming of the Savior and the spreading of the gospel to all parts of the earth and everything. So we'll just kind of go through. We don't have that much here on these. I mean, so just a couple highlights.
Pretty straightforward. I think there's just tons of lessons out of this. You could run with so many different angles here. You got the gathering of Israel. You've got how basically all the things that will prepare us leading up to the second coming. Then it even gets into what's going to happen a little bit during the second coming, how that's going to happen, where that's going to happen, etc. Things like that. And so
how about if I want to take a vacation to Babylon though?
Well, you got Babylon and Zion. Got the two contrasting know.
Well, so being that you mentioned Babylon, 14 and 16, or 14 through 16, go ye out from among the nations, even from Babylon, from the midst of wickedness, which is spiritual Babylon. But verily, thus saith the Lord, let not your flight be in haste, but let all things be prepared before you. And he that goeth, let him not look back, lest sudden destruction shall come upon him. Mm-hmm. What's the Old Testament story where they're leaving the city and they were commanded not to look back?
Oh yeah, Lot's wife.
Okay, there you go. So thank you. So Lot's wife was the one that ended up looking back, right?
Leaving Sodom, right? Was it Sodom or Gomorrah? One of those places. It was
One or the
either,
other, right?
yeah, I can't remember, but anyway, they were leaving there, and
right. So this is kind of a reference to that.
I remember you bring that up, and I do remember, was it Jeffrey R. Holland or I think it was Jeffrey R. Holland. I remember his talk about Lot's wife, and how that it wasn't the fact that she just merely looked back, like physically, like, hey, I'm going to take another look. It was that she wanted to stay. She felt the things she was leaving. She felt it was too much, and she longingly, how do you say that?
Longingly
looked back. In other words, she desired to be back there, despite of all the wickedness. Not saying that she wanted to be wicked necessarily. It was just that was her home. That was her things, her possessions were there. Her children was raised. I don't know, whatever, and so that, that's when the Lord. So it's more than just a physical, like, if you look back, I'll turn you into a pillar of salt. And she's like, what now? It's not that. It was, she really desired to be there. But that's the, obviously the lesson there is, where do we desire to be?
I remember that story was that I really got scared. Like when I was a kid, and I first heard that story, and reading in the Bible about that, I'm like, holy
it's
cow.
Indiana Jones stuff.
Yeah,
man.
I mean, like, she just like turned to salt. Like, what is this? What's going on? I'm like, I hope the Lord won't ever turn me to salt. And stuff. So
it's, and that's the thing. You got Zion and you got Babylon. I thought this was very interesting. Babylon was a place. It was an actual city. And that's where the Tower of Babel and things happened. And so it represents wickedness. It represents worldly things, and basically just wrong place to be.
But if I got a vacation home there, though.
Well, it depends. Is it on the? Is it on Sunday?
Was it Neil A. Maxwell?
You can't go there on a Sunday.
Someone.
You can't vacation. You can't. Yeah, man, you got to find that.
We're gonna butcher it. We'll let our audience.
We'll go ahead and find it. You can say it. You want to find that quote? All you got to do is say,
"That's right."
Vacation home Babylon LDS. Just put that, and
Neil A. Maxwell said it, I believe, but we'll look.
It's a very cool. I remember that. I remember that.
Yeah, I remember.
But you got the two
right here.
Yeah, that's it.
Let us once and for all establish our residence in Zion and give up the summer cottage in Babylon.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, that's a good one.
That is a beautiful concept.
Yeah,
because I think every single one of us have that little bit of. Well, I can't speak for everybody. I won't speak for everybody.
Right.
But
you can speak for me.
No, but we've all got that natural man, right?
Yeah,
and there's that little bit of Babylon that we like to try and hang on to.
Oh yeah.
And go and visit everyone.
And that's true. I think that's honestly, I think that's the you don't want to say that that's the goal of people, but I really feel like people are trying to work that out. Like, is there a way that I can be in good standing with the Lord, but yet have a little fun? I mean, come on. I mean, exactly. And so the whole misconception of that thing, the whole thing that's wrong with that is that, you're making it sound like there's no fun in the gospel or something, which is what we try to portray here. I hope we do.
Source for good times.
Hey,
baby.
I mean, and so we want to show that you can have fun with the gospel. You can have and the Lord look here, men are that we might have joy, right? But true joy. And so we got to remember that Babylon is not true joy. It may be joy for a moment, but Babylon is a temporary. When you talk about Babylon, everything to do with Babylon is temporal and it's temporary. It's not going to last, And so anyway, you want to be with Zion's people. You want to be in Zion. Zion is what represents the Lord, and represents his people.
Yeah. And so getting back to that, looking back,
yeah.
If we're looking back more than we're looking forward, then that's where we have troubles and issues, and our heart's not in the right place and so forth.
Yeah. So we've got to have that desire and try to condition our heart. Try to look for the fun in Zion.
Yeah.
And try to. It's steps. Take steps.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, I mean, it takes a lot of discipline and a lot of knowledge and understanding, and
it's a different lifestyle, but a long-lasting, enduring joy,
Yeah,
you know. So
absolutely.
It's so interesting. There's people now and people that are that have been close to me and or have, and things. But you can see that they sort of want to step away from the church and have all the amenities of being free, quote unquote, and enjoying their lives here. Not saying they're doing evil things or anything like that, but they just don't want the hardship of church. Church is too hard, right? It's too hard to live. It's too hard to be there, and the responsibility is too much. I want to be free of all that, but yet I want to find myself in the celestial kingdom one day. And it just don't work that way.
Right.
We're not here to coast. We're here to work and to push and to be uncomfortable at times and to push through and to learn and go through sufferings. And that's the things we talk about here in the Doctrine and Covenants, is the sufferings of the saints and what the hardships they went through. And I love the quote. And once again, I don't remember who said it. I think it was Jeffrey R. Holland. You can pretty much be sure if it was a great quote, it comes from Jeffrey R. Holland. But he said something along the lines of, why would we think it's easy for us when it was never easy for him? Speaking of Jesus Christ, it was never easy for him. So why would it be easy for us? He didn't die for us to make it easy for us. Right. That's not total misconception. He died for us so that we could, one, have an eternal, have a glorified body one day and live forever. And also so that we can receive a glory right after this life. He made it possible we can receive a glory, but it's up to us which glory we choose, right? Which one do we want? Do we want the highest, or do we just want to settle for something lower and just enjoy ourselves now and not worry about any hard things to do? And so that's sort of what I'm thinking of when the vacation home in Babylon. There's just so many.
Right. We can't obtain the blessings of Zion while enjoying the sins of Babylon. For sure. Right. So did you say you had something?
Yeah, and like I say, there's some wonderful things in section 133. We don't have time to go through all these things. I encourage you to read it and read some material that goes along with it. Institute manual is a great thing, just that's right here in the library. But it talks about gathering of Israel, things like that, which are super important. One of the things that stood out to me as I heard about the gathering of Israel, and I knew this, but as they said it, it hit me differently for some reason. And I guess because you can see it more today than I have ever seen it with a president of the church. I think Russell Nelson seems to talk about the gathering of Israel more than any other president. Right. Now that's just on me. I'm sure I could go back and it's there. It's in context of all the presidents.
You were probably hanging out in Babylon back then.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, and
so,
that's a good
so
point.
you might not have been listening.
That's a good point.
You might not be tuned in.
Hey, look, Babylon doesn't tune in that stuff. I mean, we couldn't get that channel. But now I really noticed it with President Nelson. He's really harping on the, hey, but the thing I realize is that he holds the keys to the gathering of Israel. He holds those keys. Right. It stops with him and it starts with him. I mean, so he is the one that has the keys to open that up and for that to happen. Anyway, a lot of cool stuff there. But the one thing I wanted to talk about, verse, 48, I believe I said. 48. And it says, when the Lord comes again, when he returns, he's not going to come in a humble way. I mean, when I say that, as a baby and born and people has to find out where he is and who he is. No, he's going to come in all his glory. His arm's going to be made bare, which means his full power is going to be shown. We're going to be in awe of what's going on, how powerful and how just majestic and glorified he is. For the wicked, it's going to be a terrible day. It's known as the great and terrible day of the Lord. When he comes again, that's mostly for the wicked people. When they say terrible, it's mostly just talking about like amazing or powerful or like, wow, blow our minds type thing. That's sort of terrible. Like, he can do that. Those things that happened when Moses crossed the Red Sea probably was a terrible sight for a lot of people to see that, part that way and stuff, just crazy power. And, but when he comes again, it's going to be that way. It's going to be like full display. Everybody's going to know who he is. There won't be any question like, wait, who's this guy? What's happening here? Is this a Marvel movie? It's not going to be that. But he's going to show up and it says, and the Lord shall be red. And this is verse 48. And the Lord shall be red in his apparel and his garments like him that treadeth in the wine vat. There's been some talk about, how the Lord will appear when he shows up. Is he going to be wearing all white? Is he going to be this? But it says he'll be red in his apparel. And this is in not only here, but I think it's also in the Book of Revelation. Anyway, Elder Neil A. Maxwell, he explained this very, you can Maxwell it up here. It says, he taught that the Savior's red clothing at his second coming will remind the righteous of the blood he shed on their behalf. Having bled at every pore, how red the Savior's raiment must have been in Gethsemane, how crimson that cloak. No wonder when Christ comes in power and glory that he will come in reminding red attire, signifying not only the winepress of wrath, but also to bring to our remembrance how he suffered for each of us in Gethsemane and on Calvary. So that's the reason it's going to be red in apparel. I thought that was just very interesting, not just out of showing like, hey, I've come to fix everything. Right. And let's be honest, here in these last days, I find myself more and more saying, Lord, just come on so we can get this fixed, because it's like it almost starts to feel like it's getting out of our hands. Like there's no way we can fix this. Evil's just starting to run wild. It's crazy. How are we going to fix this? Right. They're not listening. You can't vote this out. You can't. It's just not. There's too much corruption. So it's like the Lord can only fix this. And it feels that way here in the last days. And that's what he'll be doing. He'll be fixing things and setting it right. And and so, but he's going to come in this red apparel to remind us that, hey, I was red in apparel in the Garden of Gethsemane. I soaked my clothes with blood and my own blood. And so, that's going to help us help the righteous at least remember that. For the wicked, it's going to be red and like a terrible appearance, like, whoa, vengeance, he's coming to take me out. So I thought that was very interesting, the contrast between those two things, how the Lord's going to appear and what's going to happen. So.
Very good. Well, we'll move on to section 134. And let's see here. Oh, there we go. So 134 is similar to 133 in that it's kind of back in time. 1835, August 17th is the date here. And they are in the midst of the persecutions and everything taking place. And they had been appealing to the government for relief and assistance, and where the saints felt like they had been wronged, and so they decided to basically write an official statement from the church and send it to the government. Again, going back to the revelations and context here, Lyman White looked with pride upon his father's military service during the American Revolution. To White, American victory in that conflict had done more than secure independence for the United States. It had secured rights to life and liberty for the American people. White believed those values were the lasting legacy of the American Revolution and enlisted to fight in the War of 1812 to protect them. And then it goes on to talk about how basically White, as a member of the church, ended up feeling betrayed, as many of the saints did, by their government, who just a few short years earlier, this same government and people had fought to obtain their liberty from England, right? And to preserve the rights of everybody. And of course, you got the Constitution that's set up, and that's really what this section is about. Is Joseph Smith and the leaders of the church, they kind of reinforce the founding documents of this country. Verse 2 talks about existing to preserve the freedom, the right to property, and the protection of life. That's in the Constitution. Verse 3, enforce the laws to ensure life and the pursuit of happiness, upheld by the voice of the people. And then verse 4, freedom of religion, specifically to believe any way you want, unless that belief requires you to infringe upon the rights of others. And so that's really what this section is about. Yeah.
And from what I understand, this isn't a revelation given to Joseph. You notice in the section heading, I believe it was Oliver Cowdery.
Who ended up,
I think Joseph, this was a meeting that was held. Joseph Smith wasn't able to be a part of because he was on other assignment somewhere else. Oliver Cowdery was in charge of the meeting, and their charge from Joseph and from all the council was to, hey, we need to come up with a set of rules, just like you're saying, to protect us a little bit better. Because there was there were rumors flying out, especially in Missouri. They were saying, oh, these guys don't even follow the law. They want to make their own law. They don't want to follow the Constitution even. And so they had to come out and say, hey, we need to put something and establish something that shows everybody. And this was a declaration to put into the Book of Commandments, you know, the Doctrine and Covenants today. They were going to put it in there to show people that, hey, this is what we believe. We do believe in the Constitution. We don't believe in causing chaos or you know, going just AWOL with the Constitution or whatever. You know, we want to stick to those beliefs, and we want to show that we are civil and that we follow the Constitution. Matter of fact, it's divine. You know, it comes from God. We of course will follow it. So they did this to show that, you know,
right,
and to sort of establish and put on paper, this is what we believe. This is what we all unanimously believe. So that's
right. And you'd mentioned Joseph being away at the time with Oliver penning this and everything. When Joseph he saw the copy of it or whatever, he basically stamped it.
Yeah, he said, yes, that's great. Yes, absolutely.
And everything. So.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's just not like a revelation given to Joseph Smith, you know, like a lot of them are.
Yeah.
Or I guess you'd pretty much say all of them are. And so this was something that was, you know.
Yeah, and something that could kind of come across as a little controversial, you know, with it being in the official Doctrine and Covenants. You know, verse 12. We believe it just to preach the gospel to the nations of the earth and warn the righteous to save themselves from the corruption of the world. But we do not believe it right to interfere with bond servants, neither preach the gospel to, nor to baptize them contrary to the will and wish of their masters, nor to meddle with or influence them in the least to cause them to be dissatisfied with their situations in this life, thereby jeopardizing the lives of men. Such interference we believe to be unlawful and unjust and dangerous to the peace of every government, allowing human beings to be held in servitude. So they were, again, the saints were in a predicament because they lived in a country where in some of the states slavery was legal.
In Missouri.
And in
sure.
some of the states it was not. And so that was one of the things that had caused them so much trouble in Missouri as well.
Oh yeah, that's why they were drove out. One of the reasons.
Exactly. But here they had to kind of trying to appease the U.S. government and state governments and saying, look, we're not looking to interfere with current laws.
Yeah.
You know, your laws are the laws. So it's one of the black eyes of this country, right?
Yeah, it was.
Where, you know, with the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, you know, the rights and freedoms of everybody, but at the same time, we're holding in bondage, or some people are holding in bondage other individuals where they can't pursue those same things. So I find it just as kind of a comfort to me is that this letter was intended to prevent or help stop the persecution that the saints were experiencing. And so they put that in there to let the government know that, look, we're not going to interfere with that.
Right.
But I know that just as we believe now, if you want anything changed, the way to go about it is by changing the laws.
Yeah. So I think Dallin H. Oaks he's always been very big part of law, obviously.
Right.
You know, he's been a judge. But anyway, you know, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. I think that it harks back to that. If it's the law, then it's the law. Now, if those laws start to infringe upon what we believe, you know, that's where other things can step in, where we need to try to change the law. And you try to change it civilly. You try to change it through voting. You try to change it through whatever it takes to get it changed. And then from there out, it just starts to become, you really have to start to just believe that, hey, this is the Church of Jesus Christ. And, you know, we are led by a prophet of the Lord that, you know, is told by Jesus Christ what the church should do. And so sometimes you do look at things that this first president comes out with today and saying, why would they go along with what this liberal president is saying, or this conservative president is saying, or whatever you believe. And it's simply because it's because it became the law. It's the law. It's what it is. And so we should try to follow it as we can. It's not going to be a law that we're going to follow that's going to take away or infringe or ruin our covenants or make it where we can't keep covenants with God. And so in this particular case, like you said, you know, this was with slave owners, basically, right. What we're talking That's about. Right. Yep. You don't go in there and you tell a slave owner, like, yeah, I will talk to your slaves and I will convert them and I will bring them to our church and they'll be free. They couldn't do that. Right. Unfortunately. And it was illegal to do that. It's wrong. the church knew it was wrong, which is why they got thrown out of Missouri, like you said. But
yeah,
it's just the way it was at the time.
That's right.
And it's just,
and you see, and I think with this section here, you can really, I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on even now, where the government continues to try and overreach and everything. And that's a whole nother.
I think that's going to be part of the reason. One of the reasons we'll know when we're to that point,
right?
When the church cannot coincide with the laws of the land,
right?
Because the laws of the land can turn to a point where it's like, hey, no more worshiping together in houses, I mean, in worshiping places, combined religion can't happen or so. If that kind of stuff starts to happen, that's where the Lord will have to step in.
Right.
Things will have to happen. I don't know what that means. I don't know if that means, hey, let's get our army together and let's fight this. I mean, but you can see it today that they're trying to curb this stuff way ahead. Freedom of religion. Go back and look and see what most of the apostles are talking about abroad not just in the United States, but in the world for other countries, because some of the other countries are fighting that freedom of religion thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're trying to do away with it. Some of these leaderships in other countries. So the church is really trying to curb this thing and say, hey, that's not right. You got to have freedom of religion. And so the Lord is on top of these things. The proclamation to the family was, way ahead of, this law now that we have where men can be married to men and women can be married to women. There's a lot of things out there. The Lord is aware of it. He's not left us out to dry. Like, oh, well, now deal with that. See what you can do. I mean, it's, there's ways around it at this point, but if it does get to a point where there's not a way around it, the Lord will have to step in, I think, and we haven't seen that yet. I don't think, but we are skirting that edge. It feels like.
So as we get ready to kind of close this episode out, I was going to mention, a book. I don't know if y'all have ever read this, a Miracle That Changed the World, the 5,000 Year Leap by Cleon Skousen. But basically, and if y'all are into history and the founding fathers and everything, this is a wonderful book to read. But it's basically the subtitle here is Principles of Freedom 101. And it just really dissects the founding fathers, their influence from God,
right?
How the country was set up, the Constitution, and basically how a free country is to survive as far as these principles are concerned. Right. And then I'll close with this right here, again from Lyman White. He says, I volunteered to defend my country in the last war, the War of 1812. Lyman White wrote in an 1839 petition to the United States Senate, yet I cannot live in the state of Missouri without denying my religion. And so the self-proclaimed patriot lamented that he did not feel satisfied to live in such bondage in what is called a free government. White's petition epitomized one of the primary principles in the Declaration of Government and Law, section 130, what's this, 134, right? Yeah, 134. That church members owe allegiance to their country, but should simultaneously work to build governments that secure the liberty and rights of all citizens. Yeah. So I find it very interesting that a body of the church leaders, they actually went before the Senate of the United States of America and pled their case.
Yeah.
And the Senate, and they determined not to provide any assistance, not to interfere with the individual states and what they were doing. So,
we got to want it too. The Lord's not just going to go out there and just snap fingers. He knows it's right. He wants us to know it's right to do whatever. And so it's made me think lately. I mean, I think more good standing members of the church should run for government positions and
locally
it starts locally.
We forget how much, the limelight is always with the national media. You always see the state government
be involved
and the
community
U.S. government stuff, but be local involvement and everything. So
I think it's important. I think it is. And the Lord encourages that. The leaders of the church have encouraged that,
I've attended one time. I didn't win the election, but that's all right.
No, I mean, but
try it again.
You went out there and did it, man.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, we got to get out there and do it, and
getting part of the community, and
be involved. Well, all right, there you go. Episode 97 in the books. Until next time, y'all keep on striving.